let us learn about nuclear energy, which is another non conventional source of energy. What is nuclear energy? The energy released in nuclear reaction is called nuclear energy. In other words, we can say that the energy obtained from the nucleus of an atom. The nuclear word comes from nucleus. So, the energy obtained from the nucleus of an atom is called nuclear energy. Now, before we learn about nuclear energy, let us revise some of the concepts related to nucleus of an atom. Recall, you have already learned the structure of an atom in your standard 9. There is a nucleus which consists of protons and neutrons. Protons are positively charged particles and neutrons are neutral, whereas electrons are negatively charged particles which revolves around the nucleus. As we have studied the structure of an atom, we know that the nucleus is made up of proton and neutrons. So, here you can see the nucleus is made up of proton and neutrons, whereas electrons are revolving around the nucleus. Now here when we talk about nuclear energy, it is the energy which we obtain from the nucleus, which means from protons and neutrons, because in the nucleus protons and neutrons are there. So this way we have learned the structures of atoms. Now let us talk about nuclear energy. As we have talked that nuclear energy is the energy released during nuclear reactions. There are two types of nuclear reactions. One is fission and second one is fusion. Please remember these two, fission and fusion. These are the types of nuclear reactions. Now, the energy released during these reactions is called nuclear energy. What are these fission and fusion reactions? So, on the screen, the diagram is shown. Fission. Now, the word fission means breaking up. So, the process in which breaking up of nucleus takes place is called fission. This is in general definition, right? The process in which breaking up of nucleus takes place, that is called fission. In the picture you can see there is one nucleus, it breaks into two, it splits into two, right? So this is fusion. On the other side, fusion. The word fusion, that comes from to fuse. To fuse means to combine, right? So in fusion, two nuclei combine together and make one nucleus. Okay, so in the figure it is clearly shown there are two different nuclei which combine together and it form one. So from the words you remember the meaning. Fission means breaking up or splitting up, and fusion means to fuse or to combine. So in fission it breaks into two, whereas in fusion two combine and makes one. So easy, right? Now here in this standard we are not going to talk about this fission and fusion in much detail, because that you will learn in your higher standards, but for now let us talk about it in brief, because we are going to learn about nuclear energy, right? So there is a target nucleus, which means to whom we have to target, and there is a neutron. So what is actually done? There are heavy atoms. So the nucleus of heavy atoms are taken, and to them a low energy neutron will be bombarded, which means you can see there is a target nucleus, which means it is a nucleus of any heavy atom, and on that a light neutron is bombarded. When it is bombarded to that target nucleus, what will happen? That target nucleus will split into two, and there will be products. You can see in the figure there are two fission products, okay, as well as it will give neutron also. So when a low energy neutron is bombarded, the heavy nucleus split into lighter nuclei. So here we got two nuclei, right, as products, as well as the neutrons are also splits. Now, when this is done, a tremendous energy is also released, and this energy is called nuclear energy. Let us talk about this nuclear fission by taking an example. We have taken a nucleus of heavy atom of uranium. There are elements which are considered as heavy atoms, which are the uranium, plutonium, thorium. These all are heavy atoms. So we have taken uranium, and this uranium is bombarded with a low energy neutron. As a result, what happens? This uranium splits into two lighter nuclei. Remember, it was heavy, but when neutron is bombarded, it was splits into two products, two lighter nuclei. And which are the products? One is Ba and Kr. Ba is barium and Kr is krypton. With this, neutrons are also released, and at the same time, a tremendous amount of energy is released. So, this is nuclear fission, where splitting up or breaking up is done. When we talk about nuclear fusion, it is combination, when two things combine with each other, two lighter nuclei combine with each other, it forms a nucleus, and at the same time neutron is released and heavy energy is also released. So this is nuclear fusion. Let us take an example and learn it. There are two lighter nuclei. One is deuterium and another one is tritium. We have studied about this in standard 9. Recall it. We have learned that deuterium and tritium are isotopes of hydrogen. Is it correct? No? Both are isotopes of hydrogen. So they are lighter nuclei. When they fuse together, they form helium. And at the same time, neutron is released and a high energy is also released. So this is fusion. So the energy released during nuclear reactions, which are fission and fusion, that energy is called nuclear energy. The energy which is released during nuclear fission and fusion, that is very much high. You can take an example that the energy released by fusion, that produces 10 million times the energy produced by combustion of an atom of carbon from coal. You can think that 10 million times than the energy which we get from the coal. So how much high it is, right? Now, there are nuclear reactors. So, what are nuclear reactors? Nuclear reactors harness the nuclear energy and generate electricity. So, nuclear reactors will harness the nuclear energy by using nuclear fission, which means it produces electricity by using nuclear energy. Here you need to note that uranium is used as a fuel in nuclear reactors. Okay, because as it is heavy nuclei, it is helpful for nuclear fission. So, mainly uranium is used as a fuel in nuclear reactor. Keep it in mind. Let us talk about advantages. What will be the advantage? One advantage will be there that it does not produce any greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide. So that is advantage. Second thing is that the energy which is released, that is extremely high, that it can be a solution to energy crisis. We have already talked in our previous sessions, right, that as the population increases, the demand for energy is also increases. So as this nuclear energy gives more amount of energy, so it can be a solution to this energy problems. Secondly, the need of fuel is very small, which means the uranium is needed in very small quantity, because as such it is heavy atom, it is able to produce more amount of energy. Now let us talk about disadvantages of nuclear power generation. So the first one is the storage problem. How to store the fuel as well as the nuclear energy which is generated. So the storage problem, and then the disposal of spent or used fuel. So how to dispose it, the fuel which is already used. So that is also one of the major problem. Why? Because uranium is radioactive. Now there is a new term for you, radioactive. So first of all, let us learn radioactivity. Here we'll not talk in detail, but you remember this formula definition, so you will understand. Radioactivity is a phenomenon, or else you can say the property possessed by any element which emits energetic particles. How? By splitting up into smaller nuclei. Okay, so this you remember, radioactivity is the phenomena in which heavy nucleus will splits up into smaller nucleus and it's emit greater rays, or you can say energetic particles. Okay, so that is called radioactivity, and the elements which possess this radioactivity are called radioactive. So here we already talked that uranium is heavy atom. When it is bombarded with neutron, it splits into two nuclei and it gives tremendous energy, right? So here uranium is radioactive. Remember this. Now to dispose this uranium, that is a problem, because when this uranium will decay, it converts into harmful particles or radiations. Okay, so that is a major problem. The next will be improper nuclear waste storage and disposal will result in environmental contamination. Contamination means pollution. So if there is improper waste storage and disposal, that will result into pollution, contamination of the environment. Also, there is a risk of accidental leakage of nuclear radiations. While there is a nuclear reactions, that time it may happen that the nuclear radiations can leakage. So that is the problem of accidental leakage of nuclear radiation. Another disadvantage is that the high cost of installation of a nuclear power plant and high risk of environmental contamination and limited availability of uranium. As such, we talk that uranium is required as a fuel in very less quantity, in small quantity. Then also uranium is limited, so that is a problem because it is available in very small quantity. Although it requires in very less amount, at the same time the availability of uranium, that is also limited. So this all are the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. Here we completed discussion on nuclear energy, and we have also completed discussion about non-conventional sources of energy. We have discussed about solar energy, energy from the sea, geothermal energy, and nuclear energy. So this all are non-conventional sources of energy.